Welcome to the channel. Today, we're exploring some unbelievable story. Stay tuned and let's dive in. I was in my third month of retirement and was learning how to be a good house husband. I was starting to believe that my prior work was simpler and more enjoyable than cooking and cleaning. We still had our weekly cleaning woman, so my cleaning duties were mostly about keeping things nice. Our children had long since left the nest, so keeping the home clean was barely a hassle. I got a golden handshake for my position as vice president of a big financial organization, and the offer was just too wonderful to pass up. My wife, Sophia, and I, Andrew Hunter, spent many hours contemplating my retirement offer and concluded it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I received $4 million in cash, with a matching amount deposited into my 401k. I also got 50% of my monthly pay for life and retained all of my other perks, including insurance. We both felt this was quite kind, so at the age of 57, I found myself unemployed for the first time since I was a teenager. Writing was one of the things I wanted to learn more about. I had long wanted to write but never got the chance. Also, I wanted to study woodworking, which I found intriguing but had no previous experience with. Sophia, my wife of 28 years, was the love of my life. She was 51, 6 years my junior, and had changed little from the first time we met in college, when she was a junior and I was in graduate school. I fell in love at first sight and pursued her relentlessly for 6 months before she consented to a date. The rest is history. We started dating exclusively and married after she graduated. Our 2 children were born during the second and third years of our marriage, and I had a vasectomy since we felt that 2 was enough. Sophia was an excellent mother, staying at home until her children began school. She subsequently took a position in the Human Resources Department of a big regional hospital. She is a very compassionate and selfless person, and this personality comes over easily when she meets new people. Our 2 children have both settled into professional careers and started families. Neither live locally, but both are within a 4-hour journey. Sophia has been with the hospital for 20 years and was elevated last year to Chief of Human Resources, a job with a lot of responsibility and great expectations. Before I get ahead of myself, let me tell you a little bit about Sophia and myself. Sophia is a slender, auburn-haired, 56 woman with shapely legs and a sweet little figure. She has always had a high libido and is always ready for sex. Sex with Sophia is so enjoyable because she is proactive and really gets involved. I know Sophia would be up for daily sex, but I can only deal with it 2 or 3 times a week because my old body needs time to recover. My name is Andrew, and I am 57 years old and somewhat overweight. I am 510 tall and consider myself to be out of shape. Aside from what I've previously mentioned, one of my retirement objectives is to reduce weight and get back in shape. Working in finance is not favorable to having a slim figure. I figured if I could reduce weight and be in better condition, I'd be able to have a better sex life. So here I am in my 3rd month of retirement, enjoying the daily pleasures of coming to the gym, having dropped 15 pounds and 2 inches around my waist, and feeling quite pleased of myself. My muscular tone has really increased, and softness in various spots has been replaced with muscle. My gym includes a boxing ring, and I engaged one of the more experienced trainers to teach me the finer points of boxing. Boxing is tough, but after a time, I learned to handle being pounded and even started landing some strikes myself. I expected Sophia to notice my transformed figure after we had sex, but she never mentioned anything. Instead of pumping for 5 minutes and then taking a break, I could now pump for 10 minutes or more until I was finished. I always got her off, but she never said anything about my better figure or performance. I did not tell Sophia I was going to the gym, and she had no idea I was eating less and drinking less alcohol. I merely attributed it to her increased workload and the stress of the job. She appeared busy, so I eventually confronted her about it during dinner. I responded, "You seem completely preoccupied lately, as if you're in a separate zone and clueless of everything going on around you. What is wrong?" Sophia paused for a second before responding, "Nothing's wrong. I'm simply overburdened with work. Do you want to share anything?" "No," I said. "I just need to work it out for myself, but thanks for asking." And that was where we left it. Sophia must go every quarter for an HR meeting. She works in a regional hospital, one of over 40 in the South's largest cities. The HR chiefs all meet to discuss strategy, personnel, issue resolution, and budgetary objectives. The gathering runs from Friday afternoon until Saturday, with a return on Monday. The Marriott Hotel in the selected city is usually used as the venue. Sophia would be participating for the 4th time. I know she is excited to travel, and because of her position, I encourage her. Networking with other HR chiefs is very important, and knowing what works for one is frequently applicable to others. We normally have supper around 7:30 p.m., despite Sophia's formal work and time of 5. She is seldom home by then, so I arrange supper at a later time. If she is unable to be home in time for supper, I generally receive a text. She texted the Wednesday before her Friday departure, stating she'd be late because she wanted to purchase a few items for her vacation. I responded no issue. I'd put a dish in the microwave. She arrived home at 8 with many bags of clothing. Sophia usually dresses professionally and has a really trendy wardrobe, so I was curious why she required so many new items for her conference. That night, I worked on my computer as she packed. Later, we had fantastic sex and fell asleep clutching each other. The following morning, we jointly prepared breakfast. I teared up as she climbed into her vehicle. Sophia and I had only been separated 4 times throughout our marriage, and those were for her conferences. Sophia and I texted and contacted each other regularly while she was away. Before I knew it, she was back. She appeared more thrilled when she returned, and we had even greater sex than usual. On Monday afternoon, she remained in bed and dozed while I prepared supper. We had a beautiful bottle of wine for dinner, and she went back to bed, claiming the weariness excuse again. I cleaned up and spent some time on the web before joining her in bed. Sophia was in a hurry the following morning, getting ready for work and fitting in breakfast and coffee before leaving. She asked if I could wash her laundry, which she usually did herself on Monday afternoons after arriving home. She fainted from weariness yesterday. I gathered up her laundry from both the bedroom floor and the bathroom. I typically flip my jeans inside out before putting them in the washing machine, so imagine my astonishment when I pulled a pair of thong underwear from one of the legs. I had been asking Sophia to wear thongs for years, but she had always refused, arguing that having a strap between her buttocks would be painful. I was very astonished. Naturally, I sniffed the crotch, and they smelt just like my wife. Why had she purchased and wore a pair of thongs? Surely not for me, considering I wasn't even present. Was Sophia having an affair? Were I getting seconds? Yesterday, after we had sex, I grew upset and had to sit. There has to be some excuse. This was very unlike Sophia, yet she had been changing during the last year. What would I do? Shall I face Sophia? I decided to look around to see if there was anything else. I glanced through her closet and noticed nothing peculiar. Then I investigated her chest of drawers, which was once again empty. The bag was sitting just inside the closet, so I took it out, but it was locked. Why lock it once you've unpacked? Fortunately, it was a Travel Pro luggage, and all of the keys are the same for the same model of bag. We had purchased identical luggage 2 years before, so I located my key and opened Sophia's suitcase. I was left dumbfounded by what I discovered within. There was a pair of costly designer heels with 4-inch stilettos. Sophia and I had known each other for years, and she had never worn heels taller than 3 inches, and she would never spend $500 for a pair of shoes she wore only sometimes. Inside, there was a huge garment-size Ziploc bag full with racy lingerie, including thongs, half-cup bras, stockings, and extremely sensual nightwear. What the heck was happening during her conferences? I placed everything back in her suitcase and relocked it. What was I planning to do? Sophia was my favorite person in the whole world. She was my rock. We shared and did everything together. I couldn't live without her. That night, at dinner, I informed Sophia that I had discovered something strange in the wash. This piqued her attention, so she inquired what it was. I answered, "I will show you," and stood up to get the thong before returning to the table and putting it in the middle. I discovered this wrapped up in the leg of your dress pants. I have begged you to wear thongs for years, but you have always refused. Is there anything you want to tell me? She hesitated for a bit before replying, "I bought them for you." Okay, if they are for me, why are you already wearing them? She seldom became furious, but when I saw her face get crimson, I knew she was ready to lose it. You have never been jealous or questioned anything I've ever done, I told you. You've never given me a reason to be jealous or question you, I told you. Sophia was on the verge of shrieking. Why are you questioning what I'm doing now? I have never been unfaithful, not once. Simply explain the thongs and we will drop it. Well, you've been asking me for years to get some, so I did. I tried a pair to test how they felt. Okay, did you buy anything else you'd like to share? No. With that brief interaction, we dismissed it. I knew my inquiry needed to be escalated since Sophia had not come clean and had not mentioned the additional things in her bag. I proceeded to work on my computer and Sophia eventually went upstairs. I searched the kitchen for her handbag and phone, but she must have taken them with her. Her laptop was still on the table, so I carried it to my computer room and shut the door. I examined her home email and discovered nothing strange. Then I checked her work email again and found nothing. I searched through the history and discovered a frequently used Yahoo account, but without a login and password, I would be shut out. I had to check her mobile phone the next morning. The following morning, I awoke to the sound of the shower running, but I had no clue how long she had been in it. Her handbag was on the dresser, so I immediately grabbed and unlocked her mobile phone. Her text showed nothing. I put Yahoo Mail into the browser bar, and Yahoo came up. Her account and password were preserved, so all I had to do was click open. The man's name was Michael, and he looked to be a predator. He was the human resources director of a hospital located roughly 3 states away. He wished Sophia would dress sexier and be more open with him. From what I could see, they had made out rather than having intercourse. Sophia appeared hesitant. I heard the shower turn off, so I quickly turned everything off and replaced her phone. I knew the guy's initial name, where he worked, and what he did. I checked the hospital directory and found his entire name within a few minutes. Then I paid $30 for an internet person search, and within seconds, I got his whole background, including names of family members, phone numbers, email addresses, and, of course, his actual address. One of my golfing buddies is a lawyer with links to the local police department, so I phoned him and asked if he could arrange for the guy's name to be run through the police database. He phoned again a few minutes later and learned that the man had been accused but never convicted of 3 charges of sexual harassment. Apparently, in all instances, the accusations were withdrawn. He was a serial sexual predator. 3 allegations against him can't all be false. Perhaps he is innocent of 1 allegation, but not 3. I was determined not only to damage the person, but also to prevent him from having sex with Sophia. This was a lot easier said than done. The following morning, I gained access to Sophia's cell phone, discovered the username, and broke the password. Later, I opened Yahoo Mail on my computer and began looking for any pertinent correspondence. We were both pretty diligent about using passwords that meant anything to us. I spent an hour figuring out Sophie's password, which was the name of her first dog from childhood. She had frequently mentioned that dog, so I was extremely acquainted with the name. I was now in Sophia's private inbox, and as long as I didn't check any unopened messages, she would have no idea I had snooped. Michael had apparently been hitting on her since the first conference. He had taken it carefully, but by the last meeting, he had advanced to second base. I believe he hoped for a home run at the following conference. I printed copies of all of his emails. His emails were like love letters, and I suspected he was grooming her. Sophia's comments were typical, brief and to the point. She did not want to have an affair, but at the final conference, she allowed things to go beyond her comfort level. I began planning for the next conference and needed enough proof to hang him, but I also wanted to keep them from having sex. I went to a nearby electronics shop and purchased a Wi-Fi-enabled minicam. All I had to do was connect it to my tablet computer after installing some specialized software. Sophia spends a lot of time in our bedroom every night, so I set the camera there. The camera had an audio receiver, allowing me to hear and watch what was happening. Sophia walked upstairs after supper that night, leaving me to rest in my computer room. When I turned on the camera, my iPad displayed a glimpse of Sophia in our bed. Sophia was lying on the bed, reading a book. After an hour, her mobile phone rang. It was Michael. Fortunately for me, Sophia placed the talk on loudspeaker. They spoke about business and Michael kept stating he was looking forward to the next conference so he could see what new lingerie Sophia had purchased. Sophia made no promises, only saying, "Well, see." The pig knew exactly what to say, and Sophia was soon massaging between her legs. I wanted to stop this, so I made some noise and went up the stairs, where I found Sophia reading her book. I washed my teeth, climbed into bed, and laid next to her. I adore you to the moon and back, and as you know, I have never looked at another lady. I'd be devastated if I ever discovered you in the arms of another guy. You know how I feel about cheating. This is all that I think about. I've never been disloyal to you, and I have no intention of doing so. What brought this on? She asked. Why this sudden jealousy? I responded. Well, it's because I discovered that Thong. I've never doubted your commitment or felt envious, but now I'm perplexed. I want to trust you, yet a part of me disagrees. I'm sorry, but I feel as if something is going on you're not sharing with me. Sophia sat there, looking lost, and moaned. Weeks passed, and I continued to monitor the minicam. Michael phoned Sophia frequently, and they were planning the next conference. The camera worked so well that I decided to purchase another and slip it into Sophia's room when she was at a conference. I could then see her acts from an adjacent room. I am not a voyeur, and I am definitely not the sort of spouse who gets excited when he sees his wife in the arms of someone else. My purpose in putting up the camera was to keep Sophia from having sex, not to observe her and then run away from it. I was resolved not to be foolish. The conference week came, and this time it was held in Dallas, a city famed for its music culture, which may have an impact on my plans. I watched Sophia pack for 2 days and observed nothing out of place. However, when I carried out the garbage, I discovered a second bag in Sophia's vehicle trunk. I knew what was inside and assumed she'd merely change her clothing at the airport. Sophia departed the following morning with a kiss and the words "I love you." I followed her 3 hours later. At the hotel check-in, I claimed that I was Sophia's husband and was meeting her, and after presenting my ID, they handed me a key to her room. I knew she had a meeting from 3 to 5, so I immediately walked up to her room and set up my minicam with a view from the entrance to the bed. The operation to conceal the camera in Sophia's room took barely 10 minutes, so I went to the check-in counter and found a new person working. I requested a room on the same level as Sophia's, but a few doors apart. I had to go as close as possible to the transmitter. My justification was that I was nearby the elevator. Luck was on my side when I was allotted a room 3 doors away. Do you remember the proverb about the best-made plans? That's true. The challenge with cameras is getting them to connect first with a Wi-Fi signal and then with the receiver, which in my case was my tablet computer. It worked great at home, but I couldn't obtain a connection at the motel. Wi-Fi at a hotel is so much more difficult than at home. I spent hours attempting to build a connection, but was unsuccessful. I couldn't get the camera's transmitter to connect to the hotel Wi-Fi. I was completely out of my element. I was so near to Sophia and had no idea what she was doing. So I phoned her. She responded right quickly. Richard, you never call this early. Are you okay? No, I'm not okay, I said. I was just taking a nap and dreamed of a strange man making out with you. It was so real I had to call and hear your voice. You know you can trust me, she said. Thanks. I feel better already. I just needed to hear you. I miss you so much. I'm going to change to go out to dinner and will call you as soon as I return to my room. I promise. I love you. Okay. Speak to you in a couple of hours. I love you so much. Don't go flashing your boobs on Bourbon Street, I told you. She laughed. I snuck into her room while she was out and put a dozen red flowers in a vase. I left a note that simply said, "So you won't forget me." She contacted me right soon after returning to her room, and I responded. We spoke about supper. She stated it was fine and that she had liked the company of a few other HR chiefs. She thanked me for the flowers and I asked her to set her phone on FaceTime so I could see her. Sophia was a bit reckless and I saw her blouse was undone. I questioned her about it. In getting ready for bed, she said. We eventually said good night. I was unsure how I was going to get through the following 2 days. I knew the creep was with her at all times. Has he already screwed her? When the meeting concluded on Friday afternoon, I was lurking in the bar as they headed up to her room. I gave them 45 minutes and couldn't wait any longer. I opened the door and went inside her room. When I stepped in, they were heavily making out, oblivious to my presence. I used my mobile phone to take some photographs and a small movie. Finally, weary of the spectacle, I groaned, and Sophia took notice of my presence. She pulled Michael off her and attempted to organize her clothing. I flatly warned him to leave the room before I beat him up. I did not threaten him, but he fled because he felt embarrassed. "Darling wife, would you like to tell me what exactly is going on?" I blurted out. "Oh Richard, I'm so sorry. I got into this mess. I've been so confused. I am not sure what to do. I love you, but I crave the attention I get from Michael. What is his name, and how long has this been going on?" "Michael Becker. I started talking to him when I attended the first conference, and our conversations have just continued at every conference since." "Okay, except you no longer just talk to him." "No, we've started kissing, and I have allowed him to fondle me. I find it hard to believe that's all that's happened. However, are you aware that the next step will be full sex? I mean, you were undressed and your body was full of his fingers when I entered the room. I did not intend to allow it to go that far. Doesn't kissing and fondling turn you on? How will you resist him going further if he hasn't already? I bet you are wet as a drowned rat now." Sophia twisted around on the bed and began to weep. Then she asked if I'd spend the weekend with her. She did not trust herself to be alone with Michael. She lay there till she fell asleep, and I watched her for an hour before awakening her. Her eyes were red and inflamed. I was really upset and furious, but I said to her, "Let's dress up and go out to dinner then and dancing. Let's have a good time and try to put this mess behind us. If you want me to stay with you, then I will. That man won't get near you again." She was dressed entirely in attractive attire, all of which had clearly been acquired recently. She was uncomfortable as I watched her put on her half-bra, thong, and thigh-high stockings. She then put on a figure-hugging black dress and shoes. I informed her that I knew she had only packed attractive clothes and that I was upset because she was wearing stuff for Michael that she would not wear for me. She apologized and said, "I will wear whatever you ask in the future." I pondered what the future held. Dinner was tasty, but I ate too much and felt like a slug afterwards. We returned to the hotel bar. Sophia wanted to dance, but the dance floor was busy. Because of my training regimen, I was in much better condition and could dance without tiring. We definitely had a great time. I excused myself to visit the restroom, and when I returned, Sophia was not at our table. I discovered her on the dance floor, in Michael's arms. I was having none of it, so I stopped them and told Michael to keep his hands off my wife, not only today, but in the future. I added that he was fortunate I hadn't trashed him sooner. Sophia attempted to smooth things up, but I just instructed her to remain quiet. Michael, who is approximately 6 inches taller than me and weighs at least 50 pounds more, was not scared by me. He just chuckled and questioned how a chicken like me could back up such threat. He took the first hit, like a bully, and caught me off unprepared. I was lying on my back and saw stars for a second. The side of my face felt like it was on fire. I struggled to my feet and confronted him. Despite the size difference, he rushed me. I sidestepped and tripped him. He lunged at me like a lunatic, and I landed 4 good punches while dancing around him. My exercise sessions were paying off. I'm sure his pride was wounded, but he continued coming, and I kept striking. Finally, he slowed and left himself vulnerable, so I kicked him in the testicles, followed by a left and right combination that put him on the ground. For good measure, I booted him in the balls once more. It felt nice. He screamed, "Enough," and lay in the fetal position, grasping his groin, clearly in agony. I glanced down at him and said, "Leave my wife alone, or I won't be as nice next time." I stepped away, seeking for Sophia, and saw her hurry to Michael's side. That demonstrated her devotion and who she wanted to be with. I paid the amount and departed. The bartender had seen everything and stated he would settle it with the cops since Michael had thrown the initial blow. I departed, claiming I did not want to file charges. I didn't see Sophia again that night since I spent the night in my old room. I am not sure whether she spent the night in her room or not. The next morning, after removing the camera, I checked out and traveled home. Sophia's return from Dallas was scheduled for the next day. I was in the kitchen, having coffee and packing my luggage, when she came. "Richard, why did you leave Friday night?" she inquired. "Sophia, why should I stay? I didn't see us having much of a marriage left. You decided who you wanted to be with, and it wasn't me." "I'm sorry, but you hurt Michael and I was concerned for his injuries," she said. "Have you forgotten who threw the first punch? Look at my eye. Does it look normal to you?" I requested an explanation. My eye was completely black and swollen, I could scarcely see. "I know you spent Friday night with that jerk and most likely all day Saturday and that night too. You must be well drilled by now." "I didn't have sex with him," she insisted. "I'm tired of your lies, Sophia. I'm leaving, and you will hear from my lawyer this week. We've had 28 years of happiness and now you've thrown it away for a weekend with some worthless piece of trash." "Are you aware that he had been charged by the police 3 times for sexual harassment?" she asked him. "No, I didn't know that. You've lied and deceived me for the past several months. I cannot tell you how much you've hurt me." "I was onto your little game almost from the beginning," I said. "I'm so ashamed. I beg your forgiveness." "Sophia, did you sleep with Michael after I left?" I questioned her. "No. He pressured me terribly, but I didn't." "How can you prove it?" I questioned her. "I can't. You'll just have to take my word for it." "So you're saying I can believe what you say and trust you?" "Why should I?" "I'm telling the truth," she continued, nearly begging. I lifted up her skirt and saw she wasn't wearing panties. "What do you say to that, and where are your panties?" "I assumed that was from this morning, just before you left." "I'm sorry. It was only one time. Please believe me. After the beating you gave him, he couldn't get out of bed until this morning. He came to my room just as I was leaving for the airport and demanded we have sex. He bullied me until I finally consented," she told me. I scooped up my luggage and said, "My lawyer will contact you, prepare to be destroyed." I departed. A few days later, I booked into a Marriott hotel and decided I wanted to talk with my kids. I phoned them on a conference call to outline my preparations for a divorce from their mother. They were both horrified that their mother would do such a thing. We were all in tears when we hung up. Sophia phoned me within minutes. Now I was in danger. "How could you tell our children and turn them against me?" she protested. "Wait a minute. Are you now saying I betrayed you and hid a relationship from you for months, then had sex with a predator?" I'm confused. "I thought you were the one who deceived me and cheated." Sophia hung up on me. That night at the hotel, I texted many screenshots to Michael's wife. The images showed him in a variety of settings, first with him kissing Sophia, then with her topless in bed, and ultimately with Michael in intimate positions. I may be an angry spouse, but I wanted my pound of flesh, and someone else should feel my misery. The following morning, I phoned my lawyer, who recommended me to a great divorce attorney. I went to the bank and divided the money 50-50ths, which included my severance compensation and 401k. This was more than she deserved. I cancelled all of my credit cards and obtained one in only my name. Sophia's cell phone belonged to the hospital, so I took care of that as well. I visited the divorce lawyer that afternoon and told him to go for the kill. I became weary of being the good guy. He was also told to serve Sophia at his earliest convenience. I finally believed I was thinking clearly and contacted the hospital's CEO, whose office was in Charlotte. He's a busy guy, but I was able to beg 5 minutes of his time. At the HR conferences, I told people how Michael Becker had seduced my wife. I had copies of all the emails to support my story. I questioned why the hospital would recruit an administrator who had been accused with, but not convicted of, many incidences of sexual harassment. Anyone facing several charges should raise red flags. Didn't they do background checks? He was surprised and had no explanation, but he vowed to look into it. I requested for his fax number so that I could provide a copy of the emails. I told him I'd send him further photographic proof if he wanted it. Finally, he asked what I wanted. I want Becca fired, I said. My wife has been hunted down and seduced by a sexual predator, and she shouldn't be disciplined because of this mess. There's no reason for Sophia to lose her job. Sophia phoned me that evening. She'd calmed down. Richard, why did you send those photos? She inquired. Are you in trouble? I sent photos to Michael's wife, not yet, but I may be later on. Apparently, she has shared them with the hospital. You do realize everything will come out in divorce court? Asked Sophia. I'm charging you with adultery, and this type of divorce can get very messy. The photos, plus all the details, will come out in court. Michael's wife had left him, and he was dismissed the same day. This is one of the reasons I provided the images. Do you know he has 3 kids still living at home? She blurted out. Have you forgotten we have 2 kids of our own? I told you so. You seem more concerned about Michael and his troubles than about ours. Why is that? Sophia halted. I feel sorry for them. Michael and his family are younger. Are you aware that has a sexual predator? I just hung up the phone. Sophia didn't call again for the rest of the week, but I later discovered she had been served. After putting down a deposit on a more affordable apartment, I was able to finally leave that costly hotel. Despite the fact that I did very little cleaning, I didn't mind spending my time alone. I went to the gym twice a day and boxed in the afternoon. My body was becoming toned and I was developing some serious abs. I was on a strict diet that excluded alcohol, and I was finally at my goal. The gym threw a party for me, and we all celebrated with carrot juice. The weeks passed, and through the grapevine, I discovered that Sophia was about to lose her job because of the affair. There's little tolerance for anyone in her position to play around, especially with another employee. I didn't really care, because I didn't think the court would force me to pay alimony because I wasn't working. I made a note to check with my lawyer. We had been separated for about 3 months when Sophia called and asked if we could talk. I agreed, and we planned to meet at a local cafe. Sophia looked good, maybe a little thinner, and I complimented her on her weight loss. She thanked me, but never mentioned my own weight loss. Here I was, standing in tight-fitting clothes with bulging muscles, and she had no idea. Sophia started crying and telling me she had lost her job and had no job prospects. I told her to move out of the house so we could sell it and reminded her that she had a lot of money in the bank, maybe not enough to retire on, but enough to live on for several years. I knew she was hinting for me to come home, but I never took the bait. For the time being, I was content with what I was doing. Then she began talking about Michael again, who had also lost his job and his family. I answered, good. Now he can screw you whenever he wants and you won't have to hide what you were doing. I haven't seen him since that last conference and have no plans to, she told me. I understand what you told me about him, and now I just wish I had never met him. I have somewhere I need to be, and I didn't come here to talk about Michael. What do you want? I texted her. Please come back home, she pleaded with herself. I don't trust you anymore. I don't think I can live with you again. You deceived and lied to me so much that I am finished. You care more about Michael and his family than about us and our family. I put my family first, but apparently you don't. Please let me know when you want to discuss without mentioning Michael. I don't want to hear about the guy you screwed. After the divorce was finalized and almost a year had passed, I didn't have to pay alimony because of our assets, cash in the bank, and the fact that we were both unemployed. My lease on my apartment was coming to an end, and I needed to find somewhere to live because I didn't want to stay there. I hadn't heard from Sophia, but my children kept in touch with her, and they kept me informed about what and how she was doing, which apparently wasn't very well. I inquired whether she was seeing anybody, and they said no because she was too sad and distraught, and she was still in love with me. However, I was relieved to learn that she was seeing a counselor. During my search for a place to live, I discovered a large, 100-year-old fixer-upper on the outskirts of town, which would be a ritzy neighborhood in a few years. The house had been on the market unsold for 2 years, so despite my lack of experience working with wood and renovating old houses, I put a low bid on it, and to my surprise, it was accepted. I had a thorough professional inspection done, which highlighted what needed to be accomplished or replaced, and I had 5 pages of work to do on a house that needed so much. I was only able to go to the gym once a day, but I wasn't trying to lose weight anymore, just maintain my current weight, so I threw myself into working on the old house. I worked on it from the time I got up until I went to the gym in the evening, and I slept better than ever. My body remained sore at all times, but I was in good condition. Working on the house used different muscle groups, and my body became even more toned and muscular. The roof needed to be replaced, so I had it done professionally, as it was too big of an undertaking for me. The same was true for the electric wiring and plumbing, as well as the installation of a new air conditioning system with ductwork. When I realized I needed help but couldn't afford to pay much, which ruled out long-term professional help, I placed an ad in the local paper. Responses were few and far between, but a couple of responses came from men in their 70s and one from a high school student. A few days later, I was working outside in the hot sun, wearing baggy clothes and a hat, when a car pulled up and Sophia got out of it. "Hello, Sophia. How have you been?" "Well, not so good. You know I lost my job. In fact, I'm having problems finding work." "Yes, someone told me you had lost your job, but you have enough cash and investments to live a long time. You don't really need to work. I would like to volunteer to help you renovate the house. At one time, we worked really well together as a team. We did everything together." I pondered how she found out, and then realized it was probably because our children told her. "Yes, I remember, but that was before you took the job as chief of HR. After that, you became a changed woman and had little regard for our marriage. I've apologized 1,000 times. I really don't want us to get upset and argue. I didn't come here for that. I would like to work with you on the house and don't really care about the pay. Whatever you can afford." I groaned. "I need aid and haven't found anybody, so I accept your offer. However, we are divorced and I have no interest of reconciling." "I understand and accept whatever terms you think are fair," she told me. "Okay." Arrive at 7 a.m. dressed in ancient clothing. Despite my reservations, I agreed to work with Sophia, even though it had been a year and a half since the last time we had spent time together. Deep down, I felt like she was attempting to re-establish her relationship with me, but my hurt, while serious at the time, had mostly subsided. I was determined to remain single, and we had always worked well together. Sophia came at 6:30 a.m. the following morning, ready for work. I was shaving at the time, so I merely screamed down for her to help herself to coffee. I entered the kitchen in shorts and a t-shirt. Sophia looked at me and dropped her coffee cup. "Richard, what happened to you? I've never seen you looking so buff. And when did you start shaving your head?" "I started working out after I retired, but you never noticed. In all, I shed 65 pounds and 6 inches off my waist. I've started doing weights and I now have a six-pack." I removed my shirt to show her. "Oh my God, Richard, how could I have been so blind as not to notice?" she gasped. "Have you been learning to fight, too?" "Yes, I have been boxing since my retirement. If you had looked closely, you would have seen marks on my body and face when we were still together. I've long wondered how you handled Michael, particularly after he lay you down on the floor. You were able to come back and defeat him fairly. I've never seen you point a finger at somebody, and I felt that was really out of character for you. Well, I assumed I was battling for my girlfriend, the love of my life. I had luck on my side since he was rather sluggish. Since then, I've made significant improvements. He wouldn't have a chance with me anymore." Sophia sighed heavily. "I feel so dumb. When I was the head of human resources, I was completely blind. I believed everyone, including you, was underneath me. So I blocked out everything and everyone who meant anything to me. I assumed you were a different person when you were promoted. You were also preoccupied with someone else. So, even though we were married and lived together, you never saw or listened to me. I'm sorry I was so selfish," she said. "I have been seeing a counselor, and I hope you can see how it has transformed me. Since the first day you began working with me, I've noticed that you've changed. You resemble the Richard the First was married to before you received that promotion. I like the present you much more." We cleaned up the spilled coffee, sat down, and discussed the home and the work that needed to be done. She said how she had always desired a home like this, but we didn't have the time, money, or expertise to restore it. I responded that I still questioned my skill level and that, if I had the money, remodeling an ancient property would be quite costly. We both agreed that the home would be fantastic once done. Sophia viewed things differently than I did, so her opinion was appreciated, but I was still unsure how we would work together. Simply to be clear, as far as I'm concerned, this is simply a job, and I make no guarantees. When the work is finished, we are divorced, and I intend to stay that way, I stated, reaffirming my plans. I understand, Sophia said. All I want is something to keep me occupied. I can function without compensation, but I want to feel productive. We've always worked well together, which is really important to me. I would want to see your refurbishment through to completion. I won't have any expectations after the project is over. I promise. Okay, I responded. We'll start by painting the outer walls and windows. Then we'll start inside, but first we need to ready the outer walls. Sophia was much more nimble on the ladder than I was, so I delegated the upper levels to her, and she did an excellent job. She could climb and descend the ladder like a monkey. She was also a far faster painter than I. We spent 10 days painting the outside of the home. The days were hot, so I frequently painted in my cargo shorts. I saw Sophia gazing at me many times. I believe she saw a different person, but I'm not sure if she liked what she saw or not. Sophia, too, began to dress more casually, with gym shorts and halter tops replacing professional clothing. She looked as stunning as ever. Every day, our professional relationship improved somewhat. We laughed and exchanged pleasant recollections from the past. Sophia prepared a picnic lunch for both of us every day, and we would sit beneath the large oak tree and enjoy our meals. I hesitate to use the term romantic, but our meals were. And I began looking forward to them. We worked long days, starting at 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., with only breaks for lunch and coffee. We were able to do so much more when we worked together, and Sophia worked much faster. Sophia began offering to stop a few minutes early to prepare supper before heading home. The meal was amazing, so I asked her to remain for supper. This became a common occurrence for us. I didn't want to accept it, but we were becoming closer as a pair. We never fought, exchanged insults, or discussed her previous misdeeds. I had conflicting thoughts about Sophia. I liked her company. She was an excellent worker, and true to her promise, she never mentioned the pig she had screwed, nor did she ever recommend we reconcile. We just liked one another's company. We had been attempting to sell our shared home for a year and a half, and it finally sold. We had 30 days to shut, therefore we needed to unload the stuff. Sophia needed to locate a new place to live since she was still living in the family house. Sophia recommended that, because the furniture was half mine, I buy out her portion and equip the new home with our belongings. I felt it was a brilliant idea since all of our antique furniture would fit well in the century-old home, so we did it. We spent 3 weeks painting and decorating before hiring a moving company to bring the furniture. Sophia's belongings were packed and kept in my garage. The home still needed a lot of work, and the internal rooms were not done, but we brought the furniture in anyhow. We both agreed that the house felt like a home, and we were happy with our efforts. Sophia, go home, shower, put on some fancy clothes, and we'll go out to eat to celebrate, I said. She paused for a bit before asking, do you mean go out, as in a date? Yes, I said. Okay, he'll pick you up in an hour. We both considered it, but then remembered our former home no longer had furniture or clothes since everything had been packed. Sophia wanted to stay in a cheap motel until she found an apartment. Let's get your suitcases out of the car, and you can stay in the guest bedroom until you can sort out a place to stay, I told you. You can use the shower in the hall opposite your bedroom. I wasn't sure what Sophia had in her baggage, but when she arrived downstairs, she looked amazing. Not only is she stunning, but she is also seductive and elegant. You look wonderful, I told her. I had forgotten how well you clean up. Thanks. I don't have many clothing to choose from since I didn't anticipate to be going out to supper. We split a bottle of wine over dinner, and although we both ate, I believe we were too scared to enjoy the meal. There was a band performing in the bar, so we got a table there once we finished eating. The band was playing golden oldies, which were ideal for dancing, and I quickly had Sophia in my arms. She mentioned how hard my body felt. "Is that a good thing or bad?" I inquired. "Oh, it's good. Believe me," she said. We went back to our seat, and I excused myself to use the restroom. When I returned, Sophia remained at the table. I inquired whether anybody had asked her to dance, and she just said that a handful of guys approached her, but she informed them she was waiting for me. Even after I returned, guys asked Sophia to dance, and she always said the same thing, that she was reserving her dances for her spouse. I went up to refill our drinks, and a lady at the bar began flirting with me. I spoke to her for a minute too long, and Sophia approached the woman, saying, "Honey, this guy is mine. Go put your hooks into someone else." On the drive home, Sophia thanked me for a fantastic evening and apologized for destroying it. "You were acting like we're a couple again," she told me. "I wanted to show my appreciation and take you out to eat, and you assumed we were together again," I told you. I'm not sure what to make of the situation. We didn't speak much the rest of the night, but the next morning, she got up and began hunting for an apartment. For the first time in weeks, I found myself working alone, and I realized how much I missed my companion. Sophia returned later that afternoon, looking forlorn. "I didn't find an acceptable apartment," she told me. "I'm going to check into a cheap hotel that has weekly rates." I pondered for a minute. "Sophia, I have spent the day pondering. I'd prefer you to continue sleeping in the extra bedroom. We can bring all of your belongings in tomorrow and unload them. This is a big move for me, so please don't make any assumptions and just allow us some space. I know you aren't seeing anyone, but if you do, I ask that you not bring a man into this house," I ended up saying. "He'll take you up on your offer," she replied. I had no luck today and didn't realize how hard it would be trying to find an apartment. I understand about the space and completely agree. As for bringing anybody back into the home, she said, "I haven't dated or had sex with anyone since I cheated on you at that last conference. I've been through months of therapy since then, and am not the same person I was. Since the first day you began working with me, I've noticed that you've changed. You're more like the Richard I married before you got the promotion. I like the present you much more." She promised to handle the shopping, cooking, and washing in exchange for rent. That was an equal exchange in my opinion. We kept working on the home. If a room that required renovation had furniture, we relocated it to another room. We updated the bathrooms and refurbished the hardwood flooring. We didn't work fast, but we were thorough. I continued to go to the gym in the evenings. My trainers were thrilled by my boxing abilities and urged me to participate in an upcoming amateur boxing championship. Because of my age, I would box inside my age group rather than by weight. I'd never done any competitive sports before and was frightened. The match was scheduled throughout the day, so Sophia and I took the day off. Sophia was more anxious than I was, and she wouldn't stop squirming. My trainer took on the role of manager and advocated for me. My first opponent, while being the same age, was bigger than me but less nimble. The bout lasted just 3 rounds, and I took a hammering in the first 2 before knocking out my opponent in the third. He didn't have the energy to go 3 rounds, so I made him pay for it. I was fatigued when I was pronounced the winner, but I remained standing while my opponent was on the floor being treated. I was granted a 2-day respite before facing my next opponent. He was a superior fighter and gave as good as he got, and we both ended up standing. The judges found in my favor by a single point. After another 2-day hiatus, I returned for the championship title. My opponent was a semi-professional boxer in his teens before dropping out and lately returning to the sport. He was a year older than me and in fantastic condition, yet he proved to be a formidable opponent. I was on the floor in the first round, but he joined me in the second round. In the third and last round, we stood in the center of the ring and duked it out, neither conceding nor taking an inch. After 60 seconds of this, he lowered his right hand, leaving me an open target, and I hit, knocking him to the ground. He was out cold. The audience exploded in cheers and shouts. Sophia entered the arena, hugged me, and refused to let go. She had been terrified that I would even participate, but suddenly she was the most proud lady in the arena. I surveyed the audience and saw that many of the people applauding were our friends or family. I hadn't informed anybody about the competition, so she must have spread the news. Even our children were there. My match was the competition's final, therefore the awards ceremony took place afterwards. I was named champion in my age category and awarded a huge trophy. Sophia instantly congratulated me with a warm embrace and kiss. Without my knowledge, she had planned an after-party at one of the bigger restaurants. This was the first time we had been together since our divorce, and we were with our children and their families. There was absolutely no uneasiness. There were many people I hadn't seen in a long time since they had slipped off the radar after the divorce, yet everyone congratulated me and complimented me. Most people knew me as a flabby overweight person, but only Sophia recognized me when I entered the ring. We continued the renovations and the home was eventually complete. We were still sleeping in separate beds and not having sex, but we were still a relationship. We went everywhere together, sharing everything. Sophia even began coming to the gym with me in the evenings. We both knew there would be a day when I would have to confront our situation, but neither of us discussed it. However, the issue remained on my mind. When Sophia's bathroom was being renovated, she started using my bathroom off the master bedroom. One day, I forgot she was showering and went into the bathroom. I had forgotten how beautiful her figure was, even at the age of 54. I purposefully created a huge shower with many shower heads that could accommodate 3 or 4 persons. It took all of my resolve not to crawl in with her. Seeing her naked had my heart racing, but I had no idea what to do. I knew if I asked her, she'd have me back in a heartbeat and would share my bed even faster. I knew I had perfect control over the situation, and I was quite tempted. Sophia kept her promise and never sought to reconcile with me. I needed to speak to my children, who were aware of our predicament, so I scheduled a conference call. I expressed my thoughts and asked what I should do about their mother. My daughter asked me to recall the day Sophia went searching for an apartment and how lost I felt. I recalled all too well. My daughter then said, "How will you feel if you push Mom away now?" I said, "I'm empty and lost. Because I'm so accustomed to having her around. We are having a good time together, so why throw her out?" That was my response. It was there in front of me all along. We'd become excellent friends, but without perks, and I needed them. That night, I brought Sophia to one of the best restaurants in town. We split a bottle of our favorite wine. "Are you pleased, Sophia?" I asked. She glanced at me for a time before replying, "Yes. There are certain things lacking, but overall, I am really delighted." "What is missing from your life that would make it complete?" Sophia glanced at me as if she didn't want to respond. "I'm not sure how to respond, but now that you've asked, I miss the closeness we used to have. I miss the scent of your flesh. I miss sleeping in the same bed with you. I miss the sex we used to have. Do you really want me to continue? Do you believe we can return to where we used to be?" I asked. "That's impossible," she said. "We have both changed. We are not the same people we were before we divorced. I believe we have both evolved, and speaking for myself, I feel like a new person. I've not only restored the values I had lost, but also discovered a few new ones. I'd wish to go beyond my errors. Would you be willing to move back into my bedroom? Let's take it slow, and maybe in time we can get back to where we used to be," she told reporters. I went away without saying a word. Sophia and I reconciled but never remarried. I told her that I would never marry again and that our relationship needed to start over, as if we had never met. Only then would I be able to get over what she'd done to me. We are now a couple in every sense of the term, and we are in love. We proceeded to refurbish the ancient home until we were satisfied, and we are now quite proud of it. Sophia and I completed the majority of the job ourselves, having never done anything like it before. After the home was built, we began landscaping the yard. I still go to the gym and box, but I have no plans to participate any more tournaments. Neither of us intends to work again, but we rely on my pension and assets. We're not affluent or particularly comfortable, but we get by. You don't need much money to be in love. Thank you for watching. What do you think? Did they discover real happiness? Please leave your opinions below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.